we're really excited for what's coming up. We're going to have some gallery shows and gallery submissions, and they're coming out probably this week, before the end of the week. And we have 4 different gallery shows that we're going to submit images to, and so watch for the newsletter. I'm going to send one out for each one of the gallery submissions. And for instance, Tabor Space, where we have our print share, we're going to have all members are available to show their work. So we're real excited about that. If you have any questions about any of the details on the newsletter, announcing it and how to submit, there's also some instructions on matting and framing. And all of that will be on there. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to me or people on the board. So we have it. And then we had a good turnout for the monthly Zoom challenge. And I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to watch the show. So here we go. I'm going to share. Oh, I have to put the sound on. Yeah, and I got the sound coming. Okay. Let me find my sound button here.
You got it.
You can hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I the only one not hearing sound?
I can't hear it either.
No,
I can't hear it.
Okay,
It
well,
was going on and off.
it's on the share screen. It's not on your toolbar.
you know, every time I do this, I can't find it.
You have to exit out and share your share and hit the button before you hit share. You know what I mean? So you have
Okay.
to exit out completely. There you go.
It's working.
Thank you. Okay.
That was some great work.
I think so too. And stop sharing here. There we go. All right. Thank you, everyone. Those were a lot of nice images. Okay, now it's Steve Long's turn.
I have a quick. Um, so Chris Roddy's were not Chris Roddy's; they were Ilmari Kivinens. But other than that, it was a great show.
Now say that again, please.
So the ones that were labeled as Chris Roddy's were Ilmari Kivinens.
Oh,
But that's Chris submitted them, but he put my name in the.
oh, I'll catch it. Oh, gosh, you got me worried here. Like, where did I come up with that?
Yeah. Chris
Okay,
submitted them,
thank
but
you.
my name was in the subject line and also on the photograph.
Okay,
So not a big deal.
okay. Well, okay, maybe, yeah. I go off what the photographs say, so I'm sorry. We'll watch
Yeah,
that next time.
that is what the photograph said was my name. But that's okay.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Thanks for letting me know that.
All righty. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. So next up is Steve agreed to do the 15-minute presentation. And he had some creative ideas on bringing other people in on outings that have taken place at PPF. And so Steve is a board member. He's the secretary, and he also is involved with the outings. So Steve does a great job, and he has some wonderful images too. So thank you so much, Steve. you want to share your screen and
Sure. Uh, all right. Am I good? We're good. You can see the image and you can hear me.
Yeah.
yes, we can see you
Good.
and hear you, and I think we're going to take our other can everybody see correctly the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right. Yeah, so Kathy asked me to be the 15-minute member speaker this week, and rather than trying to put together a body of my own work, I thought I would show some work from the outings because I've been involved in organizing the outings this year, which has actually been luckily a pretty easy job because we've had some really good people step up to organize each individual outing, and I've just been sort of able to stay in the background. And so I so I put together a bunch of my photos and also I asked other people to send in their photos from the outings, and some people did, and I appreciate that. And I'm just going to show those pictures as well, and just kind of I just wanted to like think about how you can look at different things so differently between different individuals. So this is at Crystal Springs, and that's Eric Brody there. Um, so we've gone on 7 outings so far this year, which is so one a month, and these are the ones we've gone on. Jaja Circus PDX, which Mike Burgess arranged, and Molten Falls, which John Gaudette arranged. Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden, which was arranged by Bob Bergstrom. The Portland Transmission Spring Classic Car Show, which Mike Osborne arranged. Arbutus Garden Arts, which also was John Gaudette. Mississippi Avenue, which Roxanne Boucher organized, and then the Columbia County Fair, which Mike Burgess ran. So I appreciate all of those. So the first event was the Jaja Circus PDX, and this was on a I think it was a Tuesday night, and we got to just watch these people practice their work on the ropes and on ribbons as well, and it was just got some great opportunity to see people in action and try to present that in a way that shows how much work they're putting into this, but also how just beautiful it is to watch. Um, and it was kind of chaotic at times, and a lot of just action. And there were a lot of feet, which was kind of interesting to look at at the feet instead. I think we tend to look at the hands, but um, the only picture that someone else sent in was this one by Victor Dollins, and again, it's the feet and just the strength of the feet, and when we were watching, you could really see the importance of the feet as sort of their grounding, even though they're up in the air. And next, we went to Molten Falls, which is in near Battleground, and this is a picture by John Gaudette, um, which showing the water, and this is another one by him. And I didn't show any of my pictures of the water because they paled in comparison. And then there's this beautiful bridge there. And this is by David Hellard, and just a really pretty shot of the bridge. And this is another one, and this was by Ken Davis. And so I tried to emulate Ken Davis because I liked what he did. And so, I mean, this was after the fact because I didn't see what he was doing while he was there. But it's a it's there were a lot of great things to take pictures of, including people. And this was maybe a little more interesting picture for me was just of the photographers taking photos of that beautiful bridge. And this is by Ken Davis, also taking pictures of the people taking pictures. And all these black and whites are by Ken. And then these are by Ken Davis as well. And this, I just thought this was great how really switched gears in the middle of it and got these beautiful macro photos. I'm assuming that's not a plant. Um, and so then the next place we went was the Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden, and this was organized by Bob Bergstrom, and this is one of his photos from that. And I'm a sucker for flowers against dark backgrounds, so I really like this picture. This is some of the people who went. And this is also from Bob. And I really like these. Maybe, yeah.
I think we're losing the feed.
Yeah. We did.
Oh dear. I wonder if he's going to come back on here. It says testing microphone. I don't know what that means.
It also says safe driving mode.
Oh, there you are.
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Let me move to a different part of the house, which maybe is a little better.
Oh,
Okay. Is that better?
yeah, that's good.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I like this picture just because it's sort of a different way of looking at the geese, which you see all over the place.
Mm.
And then this is from Walter Oliver. And I think one of the nice things with the rhododendron garden was using that color and then adjusting the pictures. And I don't know what he did here, but I like the way that came out and looks sort of very impressionistic. And then this one also is from Kathleen Wendland. And similarly is very impressionistic. So the next one was the car show, which was pretty really fun and lots of things to take pictures of. And so this I tried. This is sort of my one way that I try to be impressionistic. Is I sometimes use a lens baby. This is the Sweet 50 to try to get that sense of motion of this car, which was standing still. So here's Mike taking pictures of cars, as he's known to do. And this was one of my pictures that I tried to sort of emulate what he does with the sort of abstract, using kind of chipping paint and rust. And this is another one of mine. And this one is from Mike Burgess, doing what Mike Osborne does, and some great colors. This was the car show has everything, including tanks and all this, Vietnam War memorabilia and everything else. And this is from Victor, and I took a picture of these cars with their hoods up like this, and it just is. It's just super boring compared to this picture with this guy who just, I mean, there's just so much story in this picture. I really like it. And then this is a few from Mike Burgess. And this is I think, great contrast between everything going on in the background and this bright pink car. And more from Mike. And this is from Mike Osborne, taking his close-ups. So the next one was at Arbutus Gardens, which I didn't get to go to, but it's a garden and then sort of it seems like sort of got some quirky artwork and other things going on there. And this is a photo from John Gaudette, just photo stacked. I mean, focus stacked. So it's a nice picture. And I guess this is some of this funny artwork that's there. And this is from John as well, as is this one. I don't know what's going on here. But apparently there was sort of a creepy vibe because this one was from David Hullard, and it's actually from a building that was next to the garden that was on the adjacent property, but it also is kind of a creepy, definitely a creepy vibe. Then Roxanne let us organize a trip to Mississippi Avenue, and we spent a lot of time in the rebuilding center. This is another picture from Victor, and just, yeah, great. I mean, there's so much going on in that building. And again, sort of he does this nice job of sort of telling a story of this person walking through. And this is from, there's a lot of opportunity to take pictures, sort of abstract pictures. This is one that Walter took at the Rebuilding Center. I think it looks like it's on the outside. And then this is one that I took in the building. Oops. And then this is another one of some lampshades.
We're having a free deal before Stu talks.
And then these are some from Mike Burgess again.
Well, this is part of the program that I've got it through my hearing aids.
So more from Mike Burgess. And this is from Martha Kerr. And just this great use of the silhouettes of the windows. And then this was because I didn't take pictures of other people, I just took pictures of myself. So, and this was just on the Mississippi Ave. And these are from this last weekend. Last week, the people went to the Columbia County Fair, which I really wished I could have gone to, but I was out of town. And these are some that Roxanne Boucher sent to me, yeah, which are pretty cool. So that's what we've had so far. These are, so again, thanks to Mike Burgess and John Gaudet, Mike Osborne, Bob Bergstrom, Roxanne Boucher, and Doug Rundle, who is leading the next trip in August. Thank you very much for organizing these trips. And thank you to all the photographers who actually read the email and sent me some pictures that I could share with everybody. I really appreciated that. So next up is the Japanese garden on August 27th. This picture is not from the Japanese garden. After that, we have some people who have said they would lead a trip, but nothing has been settled down. So we've still got plenty of open slots and would love for other people to lead a trip. I find that, as hopefully you've seen, you can really take very different things away from each trip, kind of depending what you're looking for. So please send me an email or contact Kathy or Mike Burgess if you are interested in helping out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. That was really
Thanks.
nice of you to put that together. That was really nice to see all the different trips that we've gone on. It's really a lot of fun, and we usually go out to lunch afterwards. So, but thanks for all you do, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so next I have the honor to welcome photographer Stu Levy, who's based in Portland, and Stu has spent more than 4 decades creating deeply expressive black and white landscapes, mentoring photographers throughout the Pacific Northwest. He studied with the legendary Ansel Adams and later served as assistant instructor for Adams workshops in Yosemite and Carmel, carrying forward a tradition of thoughtful craftsmanship and seeing beyond the obvious. Stu is also a co-founder of the Portland Photographic Workshops. He's led Oregon Coast Workshops for over 35 years, and his work is held in numerous museums and private collections across the country. And we are so delighted to have you here, Stu. And I just want to share one of my favorite books that I have on my desk down in my living room, and it's grid portraits, and it's absolutely wonderful. And I just wanted to share that with you. If you have an opportunity to see this, it's really worthwhile. Thank you, Stu.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the Portland Photographers Forum for asking me to talk. And first, I'm going to see if I can share my screen and make sure this works. So hang on here. Yeah, I think that that's going to work. Oops, go back a little bit. So I'm going to talk about a lot about my own photography, and I hope you'll put up with me for that. I'm going to talk about my interest in music and photographing music, how I eventually got interested in landscape photography, which led me to meeting Ansel Adams, which led me to meeting Stuart Harvey and getting Stuart to meet Ansel, and then how we started to put together an organization in Portland, which evolved into the Portland Photographers Forum. So I'm going to start off with one of my early photographs of Bob Dylan that I made in 1965. And this is not too atypical of what I was doing back then. I was photographing any musician who came to town. I had long hair and a Nikon, and I could sort of walk up to the stage and make photographs. This is the Rolling Stones in 1965 with Brian Jones, Mick Jagger, and Keith Richards. Um, this was a buddy of mine who had a band in Cincinnati. And again, that was very typical of the work I was doing at that time. Then in November of 1966, Popular Photography magazine had a cover article on this fancy new camera that was coming out called the Rolly SL66. And it was like a Hasselblad, but it had built-in bellows, it had arcing motions, almost like tilts. And I said, this is the coolest thing going. And it was just way out of my price range, but it sort of stuck in the back of my head. So I kept photographing musicians, and I had a rock and roll band at this point, and this is one of my photos of sort of a selfie of me and my band. And if anybody recognizes my watch band, you can tell which character I am in this. I was photographing other musicians who came to town, Jimi Hendrix, the James Gang with Joe Walsh on guitar on the far right, who's now part of the Eagles, Iggy Pop, Pigpen of the Grateful Dead. And then I started doing some experimental stuff in the darkroom, playing with the Sabatier effect, which is incorrectly known as solarization, but just the way you turn on the lights during part of the photographic process and get interesting reversals. And I did that several generations over and over again to make this photograph. And I'll facetiously say, notice the smooth gray tail tonalities that I have in this photograph, which was totally over my head at the time. But a few years later, when I moved to Portland, there was a show at the Portland Art Museum of Ansel Adams photos. And it was the first time I'd ever seen them in the flesh, as it were. And I was just blown away at not only the composition, but the way that light radiated out of the photographs. So I started reading about Ansel and started looking at different photos and realized how he used a view camera and how important that was. And I had a good buddy at the time, a medical school friend who was a Hershey's chocolate junkie. And I really wanted to make a picture of a Hershey's chocolate can emulating Andy Warhol's tomato soup cans. And I realized that using a fixed lens camera, if I wanted to get the sides parallel, I wouldn't see the top. And if I wanted to see the top, I would get convergence. So I literally bought a view camera to make this photograph and learned how to use the view camera. But then one day in, I think January of 1979, my wife and I were in Carmel on a rainy day, and we went into the Weston Gallery. And the lady asked us if we wanted, what photos we wanted to see. And we said, we want to see some Ansel Adams photos. And I think she probably showed us about 100 photos by Ansel. And then she said, well, what else do you want to see? Because nobody else had walked in the shop. And we said, well, do you have any photos by Edward Weston? And she probably showed us 20 or so original Edward Westons. And she said, well, what else do you want to see? I said, well, what do you got? And she pulled out a half a dozen vintage Paul Strand photographs. And as we were leaving, I said, I'm a photographer too, and I've seen ads for workshops sponsored um, by um, the Friends of Photography in Carmel. And one of these days I'm going to take one of their workshops. She said, why don't you take Ansel's workshop? And I didn't realize that they were even still going on. But I said, what's wrong with the Friends of Photography workshops? She said, look, my husband is the director of the Friends of Photography. Take Ansel's workshop. And she gave me the phone number for Ansel's workshop. And I called. And a month or so later, I ended up at Ansel's workshop. This is a photograph by a friend named David Hayden, of me lurking in the background, and a photograph of Ansel that I took at the workshop. So that first workshop had not only Ansel as an instructor, but Paul Caponegro, Roy DeCarava, Alan Ross, Jim Allender, Al Weber, and John Sexton had just become Ansel's assistant. And I'll talk more about him in a couple minutes. But the workshops then were a week long, and I stayed around for the second week and got to meet Morley Bear. Um, I met a guy named Ray McSavany, who was one of the assistant instructors. One of Ansel's friends from Eugene, a guy named Hal Halberstadt, brought one of his students to the workshop just to visit Ansel. And the student was a guy named Willie Osterman, who played an important role in all this later. And Mary Allender gave me Brett Weston's phone number to go out and visit Brett. And I got to see some of the photos that Brett was making. And he had switched from using a view camera to the Rolly SL66. So that again plays an important role in this whole thing. And I really got the hots for wanting to have a Rolly SL66 because the view camera was a little bit cumbersome. So there was a want ad in the Sunday Oregonian paper of somebody selling an SL66. Um, I should mention what I learned at Ansel's workshop the first time. Um, he simplified the zone system by going back to the 19th century photographer saying expose for the shadows and develop for the highlights. But to make a good print, you got to have a good negative. That's where it starts. But I got introduced to the world of photography as art and to photographers as artists, and that just opened up doors that I never would have imagined. But then in September of that year, I saw this ad in the paper, went out to look at the camera, and the guy who was selling it and I had a lot of common interests, and it turns out it was Stuart Harvey. And I bought the camera from Stuart Harvey, and we developed a friendship. But then a month later, I flew to New York to see a big Ansel show at the Museum of Modern Art. I flew to Salt Lake City, went to a camera store, bought a wide-angle lens for the Rolly and a spot meter, and a few days later, hiked into Havasu Stream or Havasu Creek in um, in Arizona and made one of the first significant photos of my quote unquote illustrious career. But I couldn't have done this without the Rolly SL66, the wide angle lens, the spot meter, and the information I had learned from Ansel about how to meter a scene and how to develop the film to try to control the contrast. So at Ansel's workshop, also, some of the people there told me that I should look up Cherie Heiser, a photographer in Portland. And as I came back to Portland, there was a lecture by the American Society of Magazine Photographers sponsoring Arnold Newman. So I went to the talk, and Stuart Harvey was there, and he introduced me to Cherie Heiser, who became an important person in the Portland photo community, um, which I learned later. And this is my grid portrait of Cherie Heiser. Which I won't go into detail about, but it turns out that I learned that there was a lot going on in Portland photographically. There were other groups that met regularly. There was something called the Interim Workshop, which were a bunch of students of Minor White who met once a month. Cherie Heiser had an entourage of photographers that she met with. Shedrick Williams had a group of photographers that he met with. Blue Sky had a group of photographers, and um, they were meeting all the time. The art museum had a little bit of photo things going on, but at that time also there were a lot of workshops being advertised. The Friends of Photography had workshops. UC Santa Cruz was doing West Coast landscape type of photography. The University of Oregon was conducting workshops. Al Weber was conducting workshops, and Ansell's workshops were going on also. So I would go down to Carmel every now and then, and I would visit John Sexton. This is him in 1980 or 81. And he was really happy that he finally had a full-time job working for Ansel. He had bought a photo van with a photo platform on the top. He got a custom license plate that said Mr. Zone. I said, John, if you're Mr. Zone, then I'm Dr. Zone. So one of the workshops being advertised at the time was from a group called the Owens Valley Photo Workshop, which was Bruce Barnbaum, John Sexton, Ray McSavany, and in this case Harrison Branch. And Stuart and I went down to their workshop in the Eastern Sierras, centered at Bishop, California. And this is a photo I took of Harrison Branch at Bodie. And it was Stuart's introduction to this world, I think. In the meantime, he got involved with Cherie Heiser and another guy named Richard Becker, who were trying to put on some workshops that they called the Portland Photographic Workshops. But they actually had in mind a school of photography where there would be classes on landscape, on darkroom, on color printing, as well as excursions in the field. And they quickly found out that that model didn't work very well. There wasn't really room for a photo school in Portland. But I had a habit of going to San Francisco for New Year's Eve Grateful Dead concerts and then going down to Ansel's house for his New Year's Day concerts. And at this point, I talked Stuart in, I was going to become an assistant instructor at the next Ansel workshop. And I talked Stuart into taking Ansel's workshop as a student. So in the summer of 81, I was an assistant instructor at the workshop that had as its um, instructors Ansel, Morley Bear, Ruth Bernhardt, Olivia Parker, Al Weber, and Don Worth. And the Rogues Gallery of Assistants is me on the left, Jeff Nixon, Tom Curran, Ray Taco, Jim Muller, Craig Fusil, Jack Waltman, Sam Hay, Willie Osterman, who I had mentioned a couple minutes earlier, who had visited Ansel during that 1979 workshop, and John Sexton. So coming back from this workshop, we were so buzzed, we just felt like we had to keep this kind of energy going. We had seen print critiques happening, and we decided that there should be a monthly meeting group, basically. And Stuart already had the name Portland Photographic Workshops, but he sort of morphed it into something else. And this is a statement from one of the workshop brochures that we did, where he said it was founded as a private school of photography, but it was clear that just wasn't going to work. The workshop was disbanded, but a few months later, in September, just a couple months after Stuart went to the Ansel workshop, a new version of the workshop was formed under Stuart's direction. We did general courses, and instead of general courses, we concentrated on field trips, basically, sort of an excursion program, as well as some seminars. But he realized that he needed an audience for for to for people to go to the workshops. And he basically started this monthly critique and meeting group where we would meet once a month. We would show each other prints. We would have discussions of different topics in photography. We sponsored a few things. He started putting out a monthly newsletter. And that basically was the beginnings of the Portland Photographic Workshops. This is one of the early, let's see if I can this is one of the early brochures from the workshop. And if I can get in here closely for the coastal workshop, he said, let's go back. He said, join Doc, Happy and all the other dwarves as we make a holiday on the southern Oregon coast. So that was sort of Stuart's approach to things. There was something called something Sheree Heiser put together called Photographing People and Other Interesting Oddities. So this was the group of workshops that we were doing. By 1982, it listed some of the things we're going to do: a landscape day trip to Ramona Falls, and things by Nancy McInnes, Jim Lawmason, Sheree Heiser, as well as Stuart. So, and we put out newsletters um, to um, to summarize what the previous meetings were and announce what the next one was. At first, we met at a wedding photographer's home, a guy named Michael Bordeaux. Some of the people who joined us at that time were Dale LaFollette, Richard Brown, Brooks Jensen, Eric Brody, and we would meet once a month. We would discuss photographic books. We would look at each other's prints. We would go to Jim Lamason's studio and see work that was going on there. So the two tracks progressed at the same time, the field workshops or weekend workshops and the monthly meetings. At first, all of the workshop newsletters were on white paper, but Stuart decided he would get a little bit fancier and started using different colored papers. One of our early workshops was in the Columbia Gorge and it was raining. And as we kept going east, it was raining less. We finally got out to the Dalles and went to the old sand dunes that have since been covered up. But it stopped raining and our little group made photographs there. In the fall of that same year of 82, we went to Ramona Falls. And I think there were half a dozen people with us at that one. The next thing we did we started putting together a camera swap meet, and we started at the Northwest Service Center, and we might have sold 50 or 60 tables worth of people bringing in stuff to sell. I think we charged $2 to get in, but it was a huge social event, as well as an economic event for all the people who would meet up with each other and get to know each other. So eventually we moved it out to the National Guard Armory in the Northwest. So these workshops continued going. We started to put together somewhat fancier reviews. In 1983, we offered workshops at Sovey Island with me and Stuart Harvey, in the Columbia Gorge with me, Stuart, and Harrison Branch. There was one called Conceptual Themes with Stu Harvey and Jim Lawmason. There was the Shore Acres workshop with me, Stu Harvey, and Willie Osterman. Another workshop at the North Coast, I think at Lincoln City, that me, Stuart Harvey, and Willie Osterman were going to teach, but we only had 2 people sign up. So there were more instructors than students for that one, but we did it anyhow. Dale LaFollette did a workshop on Indy cars down in Monterey, and Brooks Jensen started doing camera tricks, little weekend adventures just around town. So another photo from the early Shore Acres days. This is a photo of some of the participants at the early workshop. So I'm on the left, Stuart Harvey's on the right. A guy named Kevin Fuller joined us, but I don't really remember who everybody else is, at least in this photo. Workshops the next year included something called Coastal Encounters with Ted Orland and Sheree Heiser, another Columbia Gorge workshop with me and Stuart, another Shore Acres with me, Stuart, and Willie Osterman. We started doing fine print darkroom workshops. There was something called Inside Out with Brooks Jensen and Alan Bruce Z, another racing workshop with Dale LaFollette, and Gerald Robinson, who was an established photographer in town, taught something called Establishing New Directions. So we sort of kept going. Another workshop photograph. The next year we continued along the same lines. There was something called Personal Photographic Issues with Stu Harvey, Ted Orland, and Dave Bales. Another racing workshop with Dale LaFollette. Cherie Heiser did another workshop called Camera Vision, Human Vision. Another fine print workshop. Another workshop with Cherie Heiser and Alan Bruzy called Inside Out, and another Shore Acres workshop. So again, we continued along these lines, more Shore Acres photos. The next year, we had a workshop called Women Only with Terry Warpinski and Marcia Burns from Seattle. One called Photographing the Human Being with Stu Harvey, Dave Bales, and Maury Kamhai from Northern California. Another fine print workshop, a Shore Acres workshop with me, Harrison Branch, and Bruce Barnbaum, and then a color printing workshop. Then the next year, I was going to invite both John Sexton and Martha Casanave. So another workshop photo. But for those not familiar with Martha, she's on the left. And the guy on the right is a guy named Mike Dahm, who was the Polaroid representative. He's wearing a propeller beanie cap. But he used to come to Ansel's workshop and hand out tons of Polaroid film. So a photo of Steve Zerigian, Martha, and me at one of the workshops. But I decided that I would ask Mike for some Polaroid film for our workshop. And he had sent me some instant 35 millimeter high contrast blue and white slide film. So I decided to make a series of 6 slides to send to him. And I have 5 of the 6 originals. And you can tell how high tech I was photographing my computer screen at the time. But basically I said, hello, Mike. And I missed one, so I had to recreate one of these. But hello, Mike, any chance of sending some type 52 and 53 Polaroid film for the Shore Acres workshop with John Sexton and me, Burma Shave. And he ended up sending us a couple of cases of Polaroid film for the workshop. This is a photo that Cherie Heiser made of me at that workshop. I don't know who made this photograph, but it's of John Sexton, me, and I'm photographing Martha Casanave. And this is my photograph of Martha. And on the way back, I tried to turn Martha into a landscape Grateful Dead photographer, but it didn't quite stick. But this is a grid portrait that I made of Martha right around the same time. The next year, I invited both Martha and Jay Dussard to teach the Shore Acres workshop with me. So this is a photograph of me and Jay by Joe Cantrell, who also attended the workshop. I think Cherie Heiser came to that workshop also. A photograph I took of Jay Dussard at Bandon, and a grid portrait I did of Jay at his house and ranch in Prescott, Arizona at the time. And a photograph that Jay did of me and my late wife at Shore Acres. And a photograph at Bandon during that workshop. So around this time, Stuart was sort of phasing out of the workshops, although he was still coming to some of the presentations. I was still doing both on my own. I kept doing the Shore Acres workshops later on with Willie Osterman, then with Don Kirby. But the monthly meetings kept happening, and we were meeting at the East Side Performing Arts Center at 14th and Stark. I think that's what was Washington High School and has become Revolution Hall. So every month we would show pictures or have topics. And Brooks Jensen, I think, was doing a lot of the membership activity at that point. He was at least the secretary. He may have been running things at that point. But one day he showed up with a little publication that he put together that he called Lenswork. And it was a series of essays. And the second month he brought another one. He said, Brooks, where you call it Lenswork, where's the pictures? And by the third issue, he had pictures in it, photographs. And by the 5th issue, he had changed to the format that he has continued now for over 150 issues. So he was part of that. and and the membership meetings kept going. I think they may have moved to the Multnomah Arts Center, and at some point Stuart had dropped out, I had dropped out, but again, obviously I kept photographing. I'm going to show a few more of my photos from the coast, from Shore Acres, from Bandon. Mostly done during workshops. Another photograph at Bandon. So when I look at this, I sort of paraphrase that early lesson that Ansel had said, which my interpretation being expose for the magic and develop for the sublime. But just to bring things full circle, I mentioned that I'm from Cincinnati. This fall, someone is publishing a book of every performance that Bob Dylan played in Cincinnati, and he's using my photograph on the cover of the book. So that's going to come out this fall. And so I'm going to end there with a prescription from Dr. Zone, which is take 2 pictures and call me in the morning. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Stu. That was great. Good old memories from the old days. And thank you for being my physician once upon a time.
But hopefully that gives some understanding of how your group got to be. Because if I didn't make it clear, the meeting group morphed its name into it became a nonprofit and changed the name from the Portland Photo Workshop membership group to the Portland Photographers Forum, just to complete that little bit.
Yes. That was wonderful. That showed so much history and a very special time.
Yeah. It was a magic time. And, the Portland Art Museum was bringing in photographers in the early 80s. Like in 1982, they brought in Frederick Summer, they brought in Ruth Bernhardt. There was just a lot going on. Portland is an incredible photography town in terms of the amount of photography done here, but more especially the community of photographers and the way all the photographers talk to each other and interact. And it's if you don't already know, this is a very special place.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank Stu and also PPF for preserving this information. This is really valuable historical information, and I'm so glad that it's being videotaped so that it can be stored indefinitely.
And I'm sometimes accused for not throwing anything away. But basically, because I don't throw anything away, I have all this stuff documented. So everything that I mentioned in my talk, I have physical documentation of.
Mhm. That's wonderful.
Once the video is up and ready, I'm going to be sharing this with Shedrick Williams. He will be very happy to see it.
Cool.
I have a couple of people I'm going to share it with also, Stu. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
As a veteran of those days, I remember everybody going to Shore Acres workshop, coming back, and it was one of those. I'm going to spend the rest of my life being a landscape photographer. That's my career, my life, and of course, it didn't quite work out that way. But it was a genuinely magical time. I can only tell you that it was it was just unbelievable sitting around with people like Stu and Stuart Harvey and Brooks. Amazing, just amazing.
And the
And
prints that and the prints that Eric would bring in were pictures of his baby Sarah.
that's right. Before you had your baby Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys got tired of seeing my pictures of my daughter, but that's okay.
But we were very craft oriented also at that point,
Yes.
and we wanted it to be the finest expression of whatever you were making a photograph of. Richard Brown was doing street scene,
Hmm.
you know, street photography. And the subject matter wasn't as important, but we wanted it expressed really well. That was one of our motivations.
Mhm.
I would like to hear just a little bit about your zone work that you're doing. Well, not these days, but more recently.
You mean how I use the zone system?
Well, can you show a few of those or a few more of those and talk a little bit about how you do those?
Well, so I don't really have anything readily available right now, but the concept of the zone system, and I'll talk about chemistry based and then digital based. But Ansel he studied as a musician. He trained as a musician. He wanted to become a concert pianist. And as he started making photographs, he was frustrated that the terminology for a certain shade of gray was very arbitrary. Because if he wanted to talk about a certain gray, he couldn't describe it. So he, with a guy named Fred Archer in Los Angeles, divided the grayscale first into 10 zones and then later 11 zones, where white was called zone 10, pure black was called zone 0, middle gray was zone 5, and then the shades in between were 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6, 7, 8, 9. Whatever and the different zones, especially from in the center section from 3 to 7, captured detail in the photo. So if he wanted detail or a certain amount of light, he knew that he could place that tonal range, give it a certain exposure, and it would create a good negative that he could make his print from. So he would expose for the important detail and then change his development depending on the contrast range of the scene. And that was his whole way of making a good negative that wasn't a perfect contact printable thing, but the information was in reach of dodging and burning as opposed to being blown off the scale. The translation into the digital world is understanding that beyond a certain exposure, you tend to lose detail. So it's looking at the histogram as one makes the photograph and making sure that there's adequate exposure to maintain the detail and not overexposed to lose it. At least that's my approach to the zone system in the digital world now. And all I can say is look at my website to see examples of what I'm doing. Um, Stuff more recent than the show, but the picture I showed of the light rays, the sun rays exploding, that was a digital capture. But I took a picture of that on my cell phone also, and it looks almost identical. So there wasn't a whole lot of manipulation there, but again, just bringing out a little bit of detail was important. But my website, I think Kathy listed it on the invitation to the meeting. So please take a look at that.
Mhm.
Does that answer what you're after?
Well, it was interesting anyway.
It was an answer to some question.
Any more questions?
I have one.
Good,
Uh,
Dave, AKA Brett.
yeah. Stu, what's your best estimate of the number of fine art photography books you have? We're seeing probably 100 in the background. Do you have over 1,000?
Yeah.
Over 2,000?
Yeah.
Over 5,000?
No.
It's an incredible collection.
It's probably in the 3,000 range.
Wow. Impressive.
So it's gotten to the point where I have it all on a database. Because what happens now is, first of all, I'm hardly buying any more books because there isn't room. But if I do go someplace and see a book that looks cool, I actually look, I have the database hooked up to my phone so I can see whether or not I have it or not. So I can find another copy of it.
Oh. And also your print collection, what estimate of how many of really these incredible prints you
That's
have?
in the 1,000 range also, probably.
Wow. Wow, what an archive.
And I can tell you, I had the opportunity to visit Stu, and his home is like a museum. It's so fascinating. It's got so much history and so many beautiful images, and the library is amazing.
The images are on the wall to distract you from all the disorganization in the, in the surfaces.
Stu, do you still have the hole in your floor for your enlarger to come
Oh, yeah,
through?
yeah.
Yeah. I was there when I bought a print from you a few years ago. It's still there, huh?
Yeah, well, the enlarger's still there. The enlarger was too big for the darkroom, so we cut a hole that happened to fit into the closed up kick space of a built-in bookcase above it. But I actually used the darkroom for the first time a month ago, for the first time in 6 or 7 years. Jim Lawmason, who used to be part of this group, the Portland Art Museum was buying some photos from him, and there was one print that he had the negative for, but all he had was one damage print. So we actually reprinted his old negative in my darkroom, and so it got resurrected, and it was fun to actually use it again.
Wow.
So, Stu, I have a question for you. After the change in name from PPW to PPF,
Yep.
Did you stay involved in the new group, the PPF group?
I did for a while, up through the mid 90s, and then I basically that's when I also when my daughter was growing up and my time was more limited, and I was working also. I had a day job, or at least half of a day job, which was half a day job was 40 hours a week, as Eric and Steve know, who were both colleagues of mine.
Well, thank you, Stu, so much. It's really been an honor to have you here, and we really appreciate it. And I'm wondering if maybe down the road we could do a workshop. Something to think about, huh?
You
You're
never
laughing.
know.
You're laughing.
Okay, well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity, and I'll sign out and let you guys finish up.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
again. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, Stu.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good
night.
night. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
It's some history.